We'd like to welcome you back to part 3 of our current event and weekly Bible study. I'm on page 6 of the 44-page document, so we're doing good. And we're already on part 3 for June 14th, 2015. But as you can hear from the last audio that we were just listening to, really major stuff. Really major stuff that could be impacting you financially in the biggest way you've ever known, particularly if you live in America. But I gotta believe this is going to be global. I mean, global ramifications. If it's going to be a currency reset, like you said, it's all of these countries. You know, I think all the major countries of the world have agreed to have their currency reset. Um, it's going to affect everybody. So if what they're saying is true, you know, obviously having money out of the bank, obviously things like if there was something that I don't know. And again, I don't want to give you advice outside of the will of God. So pray and fast about what we're talking about today in general. Not just this. Obviously, this is a temporal thing. This is a material issue we're talking about. The other stuff that we've discussed is of more of a permanent, you know what I mean, nature. And the stuff I talked about at the beginning with the soul winning, that's the most important. But these are things to think about, to pray about, to research, to consult. Again, out of the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, a thing is established. There's a lot of Bible verses. You know, the prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. But at the same time, you don't want to be motivated by the fear of man to make any hasty decision regarding things. If what they're saying is true, then we would see a devaluation of the currency when this happens, which could be any time between now and the end of the year, sounds like. And you would have, in a very short period of time, 30% less buying power, which would continue to deteriorate. First thing you're going to start to see is gas prices go through the roof, and then other things as they hit the shelves in other stores, they're going to be just... And this has already been happening to a certain extent. You know, I mean, with a lot of different things in America, just going to the store, going to the grocery stores and things of this nature, food prices rising. Then you have these shortages being created through the Illuminati's agenda, like the bird flu with the eggs in the chicken, in the poultry, so making that rise and making egg prices rise, and then the beef has been rising. I mean, and there's been a whole bunch of things they've done to increase that. So there's a lot of things they're doing to devastate you financially. This is going to be the biggest one as of yet. Okay, but there's already been things going on, particularly in the recent decade, that have been moving us toward this point. Okay, this is just going to be the cherry on top of the satanic financial sundae, what we're dealing with here. So where can we get confirmation on this? Well, there's this report just came out yesterday or the day before. Today, a legend, and this is from King World News. This is the financial big time. That's all they report on is financial issues. And today, a legend who was recently asked by the Chinese government to give a speech to the government officials in China warned King World News that China's insatiable gold demand is being fueled by fears that a global financial system may crash. And the guy interviewing him, Eric King, says, this guy's John Ing. John I-N-G is his last name. John, you are connected to China at the highest levels of government. I know you have seen several... Now, remember, I have reported, again, and not only I, but a lot of other people have reported on how China basically is in process of taking possession of the United States, for lack of better words, on a lot of different levels, because they've bought our debt, and on a lot of other levels, the United States, and this has all been by design, is going to basically is ceding possession, over to China, essentially, or that's what they would like to happen. So China seems to be at the center of this. He says, Eric King says, John, you're connected to China at the highest levels of government. I know you've seen several key player charts that King World News featured. One of them was gold versus monetary base ratio, and another was Fed's balance sheet versus gold price. Obviously, China is aware of the massive distortions in these ratios, and they have responded by buying up all the physical gold they can. They are trading in dollars for gold as fast as possible. What is China's perspective based on your conversations with high-level officials in China? John Ing, his response: China is awash in dollars. Because remember, they've been buying our debt for years. They're awash in dollars as a result of the massive monetary creation by the Fed. China knows that the Fed's balance sheet has grown to almost 5 trillion. And they also know that the price of gold is radically undervalued, as well as silver. That's my thing as well. When compared to the Fed's bloated balance sheet, both Chinese and Russians know that the United States can't pay back its staggering debt without massively debasing its own currency. This is part of the reason why the currency will be devalued, will be, quote, reset. Because that's only one of the ways that it can partially pay back its staggering debt, is by debasing its own currency, so that now all of a sudden we're going to have super high super inflation, where it will end up taking, a 30% hit initially and then going down to where the dollar's totally debased. So they would get, everything from you at that point. Any bit of buying power that you have with the dollar would now be started to be canceled out. This is how China would get part of their debt repaid, in other words, by debasing our currency, if that makes sense. So they have been both huge buyers of gold because a day of reckoning is near. Now remember, Lindsey Williams just gave all the statistics on how China's buying up gold. So when I look for is if something is valid, can we get other validation? Can we get other verification elsewhere from different unrelated sources? And we're seeing that here. And this is just one report. There's probably hundreds out there that would verify this. The massive purchases of physical gold by the Chinese are also being fueled by the oceans of derivatives that threaten the stability of the global financial system. So China continues to unload dollars for physical gold as quickly as possible, because they know at some point the integrity of the global financial system will come under threat. It's just a question of when. So they're unloading their dollars for physical gold as quickly as possible. And it's not just China that is buying gold. Russia recently announced its plans to dramatically increase its gold hoard, but the Chinese appetite for gold can only be described as insatiable. And this is while the Western mainstream media propaganda arms continue to tell their people that gold is a worthless relic, because they want to make sure as many people are in the most helpless position as possible when this goes down, to have lulled as many people to sleep as possible so they have all of their assets on paper and in cash that they can't get to. You'll have people that are literal multimillionaires that haven't taken heed of this become literal, I'm not going to say they're going to be literal paupers overnight, but if, let's say their pensions are stolen, let's say their IRAs or 401ks or whatever, they can't get to them ever again, and the dollar's devalued, and let's say they can't even get to the money they've got, I don't know how bad it's going to get, and I'm not sure exactly. Well, you're going to have a lot of that going on in a very short period of time, which is what they want. And that's why they've told everybody, they've downplayed gold, oh, sell your gold, this and that, and whereas China's buying it up as much as they can get with the soon-to-be incredibly devalued dollar. So what they're trying to do is get hard assets now, real money, that's been used all the way from antiquity. Gold and silver always have intrinsic value. Okay? And I'm not saying you put your trust in gold and silver. I understand those Bible verses. I get that. Okay? But gold and silver have always been used since antiquity as an honest medium of exchange. The dollar we have now, there's nothing honest about it. It is printed out of thin air with nothing backing it. So ask yourself, is that righteous? Is our dollar righteous? It's printed out of nothing, on thin air, out of thin air, off a printing press. It's not righteous. Whereas gold and silver have always and always will have intrinsic value. So, you can look at it from a biblical standpoint that way. So the Chinese know that this is a lie, meaning that gold is a worthless relic, and that is just spewed out to the public in the West to slow the hemorrhaging of physical gold out of Western vaults. KWN has written many times how China is internationalizing the renminbi. That is their form of currency, the Yuan renminbi. Okay, that is a fact. Virtually every move China makes on a weekly basis is being done to internationalize the Chinese renminbi. Whether China is setting up an infrastructure bank, a fund, or a direct central bank to the central bank they're using the renminbi, or whether they're buying Russian oil with the renminbi, they are pushing for greater liquidity and international presence of the renminbi. But most importantly, China is on a historic gold buying spree because they intend to back their currency with gold. And here we have a literal billboard at like the Bangkok International Airport. And it says, it's a billboard, Bank of China, RMB, the renminbi, the new choice, your premier bank of renminbi services the world currency. And guess what? It's got a city under it that looks like it's from the Orient, like a China, but it's built like a boat, and it's a gold boat. And it says the world currency. The O in the world is a picture of a hand coming down with one of these Chinese renminbi. It's gold, and the word world, the word world, when it says the world currency, is all in gold letters. They're going to have a renminbi, the Yuan renminbi, and it's going to be backed in gold, and they're telling you that, and they're telling you this is going to be the world reserve currency. The dollar is going to die, and what's been propping up the dollar for a long time is its reserve world currency status. Think of all the stuff that they're doing. They're getting rid of their dollars. They're flooding the market with dollars. They're buying up gold, which is going to devalue the dollar. They're going to be transferring over to the renminbi, which is going to be the world reserve currency, which was one of the only reasons the dollar's been propped up this far as it is. That's going to devalue it. And then they're going to reset the currency, which is going to hit it for another 30% initially. So what Lindsey Williams got into is only one facet of how the dollar is going to be devalued. I'm not saying he didn't touch on some of these things, but I'm like looking at this and I'm like, could the handwriting be any more on the wall here? They're coming out in your face with billboards saying this. And China's on a historic gold buying spree because they intend to back their own currency with gold, which will be real money. You can see the billboard. I got it copied and pasted here in the PDF for June 14th, 2015. Just check contendingfortruth.com. It's going to be on page 7. Billboard, biggest day. Find it online. And yes, all of this is being done at the same time. The Western mainstream media is being used to tell the public that gold is a relic that nobody should own. Because they want to make sure when you get hit, you are devastated to the core. Satan wants the middle class of America, and he wants it destroyed. This is just one of the ways he's going to do it. It's going to be shock and awe. All of these other stuff we're talking about today, I got a feeling that a lot of this stuff is going to happen in close proximity to one another, as I've been saying for years, to get the maximum amount of shock and awe, devastation, devastating people, body, soul, and spirit. They're shaken to the core, financially, everything. He wants us in a weakened state. And this is a good way to do it. Now let's go further. Video. We're gonna play about 4 minutes of this. Bank of China announces renminbi yuan as the world reserve currency. Remember what I said? I wasn't going to say what the world reserve currency, and he couldn't say that. Lindsey Williams couldn't say it with what he was presenting. I guess it was too much to put out. Well, a little bit of research, it was pretty easy to find. These are all newer videos. These are all things that have been said. In a startling billboard found at Bangkok International Airport, the Bank of China has announced that they have the world reserve currency. And it's funny, all of it seems, the whole thing about the gold lettering is no um, accident either. Let's go ahead and play this little video.
All right, guys, it's Nick. Huge news on China right now. First off, look at this billboard. This was taken in it was taken in Thailand, the Bangkok airport. And you can see it says RMB, which is the Renminbi or the Chinese Yuan, the new choice, and the world currency. Look at that, the Yuan. They're coming out there and saying right there on this billboard that they have, or they are anticipating having, the world reserve currency. So I thought that was huge news. I wanted to share that with you. Look at some of the other news that I found. This is just when you search for China world currency in the past month. Just look at all this. China has a strategy for winning the currency wars, and will Beijing devalue its currency? This was one of the recent ones from March 9th, talking about currency devaluation. China's mega international payment systems ready with the launch later this year. This was just March 10th, a few days ago, and it's called China International Payment System, CIPS. So that is something to keep in mind. And remember, guys, world reserve currency does not last forever. And you can see all the countries that used to have the reserve currency, now they don't. And the U.S.
Oh, I mean, they're going back to the 1400s, Portugal, and then you had from like 1500s to 16 Spain, and then after that it was Netherlands, and then France from in 1750s in that range, and then Britain in the 1800s it looks like, and then lastly you've had the U.S. from like 1925 on. So reserve currency does not last forever. And again, the Illuminati's number one goal is to take down America. So this is just, see, they're this is all by design. All this stuff is coalescing. All the stuff that we're talking about, it's like they're doing it. And again, that order out of chaos, order ab chao, the 33rd degree Freemasonic motto. They're going to bring their new world order out of the chaos of the old one being destroyed. They're going to bring that shock and awe. And this is how, one of the ways, just one facet of what they're going to be doing very shortly, it appears, unless God pushes this timetable back. I've never seen more things in place to actually have this all come to pass. All of the things we've been talking about for years regarding this subject, and then all of this stuff with we're going to be talking about this week with climate change, and then the forced vaccines, and then next week I'm going to try to talk about the whole alien agenda, which seems like they're really ramping that one up too. Could this all happen at the same time? Um, well, if you were Satan, and you wanted to instill the maximum amount of compliance, wouldn't you want to have that maximum amount of shock and awe to get people in line, to get people on the same page, to get the fear of man in people and the fear of the situation, so that you would basically accept whatever's set before you? I think that's the way he would work it.
How much longer are we going to last? Here's another one out of the USA Today. China calls for a new global currency. And Chinese yuan, now the top 5 major international payment currencies. This was in January of this year. So this is huge news, guys. So let's just go ahead and look at a 10-year chart. This is a 10-year chart of the Chinese yuan versus the US dollar. As you can see, right here in 2005 there was a fix, and then all of a sudden the dollar and the yuan depegged, and you can see what happened here. The Chinese currency has been devalued. That is what's happening. Purposely devalued. Now let's just go ahead and go back a bit. Okay, you can see where this all started right here. You can see the date was around, let's see, July 21st, July 22nd it happened. Basically, it decoupled from the dollar right there. So let's just go ahead and look at the news. Here's the news from CNN Money. This is July 21st, 2005. This is the day after it happened. And it says right here, China revalues the yuan. It says, in a move that could trim the trade gap with the United States, China revalued its currency higher against the dollar Thursday and said it would no longer have the yuan tied to a fixed rate against the U.S. currency. You can see all the articles here. You just go to Google, search for the web, and just search for July.
So that was July 1st, 2005. So this is like 10 years ago this happened.
July 1st to August 31st, and you can see all the news. And it was all around July 21st about China getting rid of their peg with the dollar. So most people wonder, well, why would they do that? Well, what it does is when you look at the 10-year chart, it just makes products from China really cheap. But here's the thing, guys: if they get this reserve currency that they're discussing, I mean, they're so blatantly just putting the billboard out there, guys, in Thailand, in Bangkok, one of the most. I've been there, guys. It's a very very busy place, very busy airport. China's coming out and saying that they've got the world currency. Now, most people are just focusing on the dinar or the Vietnamese dong.
Remember what I said before: the Illuminati, from a Kabbalistic Kabbalah, Luciferian principle, they have to warn who they would term the sheeple of what they're going to do before they do it. Here they're coming right out and telling you this. I'm trying in this study to put all the pieces together about what's coming in the next few months to the end of the year into next year. From a militaristic, from a financial, from a political, from a health standpoint, we're going to be talking about all those aspects today. And to me, this seems so in your face, so obvious. If you think I'm wrong, let me know. If you think I'm right, let me know. It just seems to me like, I mean, the next report here is called Currency War. 40 countries buy the yuan and drop the U.S. dollar. Everything I'm seeing is indicating that they're getting, everybody that knows anything is getting out of the U.S. dollar, and they're either buying, they're getting into the yuan or gold and silver. The yuan, which will actually be gold backed. That's what I'm seeing. Now, I'm not saying I'm Mr. Prognosticator, financial expert, or any of that, but this is so obvious and so in your face that it's tough for me to think anything otherwise. And that's why I'm putting this out there. And I'm trying to validate this point as much as I can so that you can understand this isn't just some little whimsical opinion I've come to. This seems to be like so obvious, it's undeniable.
Or focusing on other currencies. Uh, I am particularly interested in China, but I mean they have a lot of gold that not only do they pull out of the ground in that country, but a lot of gold that they buy from other countries, and the gold price is extremely cheap right now. That's why I recommend people buy gold, buy silver, and I have a little bit of Chinese yuan. I might buy some more, but I'm not looking to get rich off of any currency at this point. I'm just looking to protect my assets. So I just want to let you guys know about this, and please share the news with everybody about what's happening in China, because most people are just focused on sports or things that aren't actually important. They're not focusing on geopolitics. They're not focusing on what's happening internationally with China. So I really encourage you guys to take a look at that. We're watching a replay of the video.
Okay, so that's all for that. Again, more validation. Okay, validation at the highest levels, and some of this is just like so obvious and so in your face. And billboards where they're showing the world currency, the renminbi, Bank of China. You know, then we have, if you want to know more about, well, where did the IMF ever say that they're going to have a global currency reset? Well, here, right here, interview with Christine Lagarde, head of the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and she's talking about we need a global currency reset, and they're going to have it. So this is all just basically confirming what the financial elite at the highest levels have said is going to happen. So that if people get caught flat-footed, they're going to say you're without excuse. From a Luciferian principle, we warned you, we told you up front what's going to happen, and you still didn't act. That's how they would view this, is what I think. What I seems to be obviously what's going on here. Here's the next one. Surviving the Jade Helm era depends on taking your money out of the bank. Now that was from Dave Hodges, Common Sense Show, who I've got more than one of his reports in this report, at least one. And he meticulously documents everything with multiple references, usually 20 references per report. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he gets out that much content and still does audio interviews. I mean, that guy puts out a massive amount of stuff. And so, again, surviving the Jade Helm era depends on taking your money out of the bank. Out of the mouth of two or three witnesses, the thing is established. You know, from a multitude of counselors there is wisdom. So I'm trying to give you as much counsel today as I can from people that are a lot smarter than I am regarding these financial issues that are soon to be upon us. Okay, this could literally be a tremendous blessing to a lot of Christians if God so led you to act upon this, and He led you. This could be a tremendous blessing to you financially, knowing this information, obviously. Okay, so the next report, the writing's on the wall. Texas pulls 1 billion. This just came out today. Texas pulls 1 billion in gold from the New York Fed, makes it non-confiscatable. Well, they don't want their gold anywhere near the Fed. The Fed's the one printing the money out of thin air. The Fed's the one, when the economy collapses, would probably try to get their grubby satanic hooves all over as soon as the everything collapses. And again, this just came out yesterday. I'm sorry. Lack of faith in the central bank trustworthiness is spreading. First Germany, then Holland and Austria, and now, as we noted as we noted previously, Texas has enacted a bill to repatriate 1 billion in gold. And again, here's Texas again. To repatriate one, it seems to be they're going to be expecting the most resistance in Texas, and that is why, one of the reasons at least, Texas seems to be being targeted with all of this stuff we've seen as of late. I've already documented a lot of it in previous teachings and in this teaching. So here Texas is repatriating 1 billion in gold from the New York Fed's vaults to a newly established state gold bullion depository. People have this image of Texas as big and powerful, so for a lot of people, this is exactly where they would want to go with their gold, and the bill includes a section to prevent forced seizure from the federal government. I wonder if they know something that's coming. Because our federal government, when this happens, when the dollar tanks and devalues, they're probably going to be trying to get their grubby mitts on every ounce of gold and silver they can to restoke their own. And I'm talking, they're not going to do it lawfully. So if I was you, you buy gold and silver, I wouldn't be going any place that's taking your name, number, and address. I wouldn't be doing that if I was you. No, I really don't. As far as I'm concerned, I want to be creating a paper trail about that. It's not how you want to buy ammo. It's not how you want to buy guns. It's not how you want to do any of that. I'm just telling you, just a little friendly advice there. There are places that you can go to, certain places, coin shops, things of this nature, locally, not having to deal with them on the internet, that will agree to do that and understand why you would want to do it. If you get to a place that won't let you do that, if you so feel led, then don't do business with them. Go to another place. Okay? I'm just telling you. Why would they be going through all of this trouble to pull their gold, 1 billion in gold, out of the New York Fed's vault and to put it in this new gold depository in Texas? And then also, Texas is enacting a bill that includes a section to prevent forced seizure from the federal government. Why are they doing that all of a sudden now if they weren't worried about something, about that very thing from occurring? And these people have 1 billion in gold. So from 2011, we read the report. The University of Texas Investment Management Company, the second largest U.S. academic endowment, took delivery of almost 1 billion in gold bullion, and this is when they put it in with the Fed. Okay, now they're wanting to get it out. This was back in 2011. Okay, so they took delivery of 1 billion of gold bullion and is storing the bars in a New York vault, according to the fund's board. The decision to turn the fund's investment into gold bars was influenced by Kyle Bass, a Dallas hedge fund manager and member of the endowment board. Zimmerman said at its annual meeting on April 14th, Bass made $500 million on the U.S. subprime mortgage collapse. Bass said, quote, central banks are printing more money than they ever have. So what's the value of money in terms of purchases of goods and services? Bass said yesterday in a telephone interview, I look at gold as just another currency that they can't print any more of. It's real money. It has real value, you know, no matter what the economic condition. Granted, I mean, you can't trade a bar of gold for a loaf of bread if there's famine in the land, or where, yeah, I guess you could, I'm sorry. But a lot of people say, well, you can't eat gold, this type of stuff. Well, yeah, but you can use it as a medium of exchange. You know, you can even buy gold to the 10th ounces, which is a small, and you will pay more. But, you know, to have some of those, it's going to give you, and you can do the same with silver. You can buy junk silver, dimes and quarters, 1964 and pre, that you're not going to pay new numismatic value for, meaning you're not paying for the nice, pretty coin. You're paying for the actual content of what's in it that has intrinsic value that can be used as a bartering item of exchange. Okay, so I'm just saying that is a lot more honest than the money you have in your pocket right now. Bottom line, and that's biblical. It's a lot more honest. Because what we got now is a joke. They print it out of thin air and there's nothing backing it. And you know what God says? He hates unjust scales and balances in the Bible over and over and over again. Just look in Proverbs. He abhors unjust scales. Well, that's all we have. That's all the Fed is. It's a privately owned institution that was created in 1913 to essentially bankrupt the country, to take us off the gold standard in 1933 and then totally off the silver standard by about 1968, around there when they totally stopped putting any silver in coins. Maybe it was 72. I don't know. It was in that area, range. No more silver. No more nothing backing our. Now they've even got to the point where they don't even make copper pennies anymore. They got to make it with like zinc alloy because the copper was more than the penny was worth. I mean, and then now they're doing that to even like nickels and stuff and making the metals cheaper. So in that regard, gold and silver are much more of an honest biblical exchange than any Federal Reserve note, any debt instrument that's printed out of thin air with nothing backing it. Okay? So, because you always get the inevitable people, yeah, they're going to cast their gold and silver into the streets. Yeah, I understand the rich will do that. That's true. Does that mean that all gold and silver that ever was is bad? Well, God created it. I mean, you know, it's been used since antiquity as a medium of exchange. Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? That was in his day. It wasn't like he was going around condemning gold and silver. Now, putting your trust in them, absolutely. Hoarding wealth, absolutely. Like for your own greed and gain, you can gain the whole world and lose your own soul. Absolutely. So, you know, it's just having proper biblical perspective is what I'm trying to get. I have a thing on precious metals that I can email. You can just email me and I'll send it to you on guidelines that I would tend to go by. Ideas about that. That's something to consider. Okay. I think you should just create as less of a paper trail as humanly possible when it comes to this subject. It's none of their business, and they don't need to know nothing about it. Okay, so let's go further here. Back to this quote from Bass. Central banks are printing more money than they ever have, so what's the value of the money in terms of purchases of goods and services? I look at gold as just another currency they can't print out any more of. And then Epoch Times reports that Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a bill into law on Friday, June 12th. This just happened 2 days ago, to build a gold and silver bullion depository. In addition, Texas will repatriate $1 billion worth of bullion from the Federal Reserve in New York to the new facility once completed. I wonder if they're going to cede from the union. I mean, like that whole thing about, you know, ceding from the union, succession type of thing. I don't know. I mean, it seems like everything's keying in on Texas, and now all of a sudden they're getting their gold back. They're building their own depositories. I don't know. Oh, I think, yes, the New World Order would fight it tooth and nail. But I'm just saying, I mean, uh, something's going on with Texas. That's all we've been, half this report's been on that, relating back to them. Okay, now remember, this report was titled The 7 Things That Are Going to Happen Until Now in Late September. Okay? We're not through with this yet. And we're already in part 3, and we're halfway through part 3, more than halfway through. So, let's go to the next date, September 15th. So, the last date we talked about was September 13th. Now we're going to talk about September 15th. September 15th. The 70th session of the UN General Assembly begins on this date. United Nations. It is being reported that France plans to introduce a resolution that would give formal UN Security Council recognition to a Palestinian state. Up until now, the United States has always been the one blocking such a resolution. Barack Obama hates Israel, okay? And Barack Obama is indicating that things may be much different this time around. Oh boy. We have the gay marriage approved, and Barack Obama on September 15th, around that date, he goes and officially recognizes a Palestinian state, which is putting all kind of more pressure and absolute. I mean, they're not even giving them a choice. You're going to form a Palestinian state. You're going to give a more quote land away for false peace to these Islamic devils. And I'm not saying Israel's perfect, but yeah, you know what the teachings on Islam. You know, they speak for themselves. Not my information. It's just stuff they've done. Jackals, devils. Okay, give that away. Look at John McIntyre's book on I don't know. It's called The Eye or something, and it just documents over and over all the dates that we did this stuff to Israel. That we said this, and this. You give up more land. You do this. You do that, and then like usually the next day we have some unbelievable, horrific natural disaster happen to America. Can you imagine with the verses I told you about, with approving gay marriage at the end of June, and then in September, if they go through with this, and they officially recognize this from this fork-tongued devil-in-chief we have in office, to give up more land for peace, when all that'll mean is moving their rockets in way closer, so they can get a better beat on Israel? Oh. Do you see why I'm saying that, I mean, then from a natural disaster standpoint, I can't even imagine what God. So again, things to pray about. Okay? And I'm not saying God can't protect his remnant here. But I've never seen so many things potentially happening in a very short period of time that could bring the wrath of God on America as I am from between now and the middle, well, really the end of September. And that's just 2 things. There's other things as well. Okay? Let's go to the next set of dates. September 25th to September 27th. The United Nations is going to launch a brand new sustainable development agenda for the entire planet. Think Hunger Games. Some have called this Agenda 21 on steroids. Agenda 21, we reported heavily on, I believe, the last teaching. Absolutely control freak of every single aspect of your life, lock, stock, and barrel. You know, every facet is what they want. Some have called this Agenda 21 steroids, but this new agenda is not just about the environment. It also includes provisions regarding economics, agriculture, education, and gender equality. On September 25th, the Pope will travel to New York to give a major speech kicking off the UN conference where this new agenda will be unveiled. The Pope's going to be the main mouthpiece for this stinking abomination. Who better but the biggest stinking abomination on 2 legs on planet Earth but this Pope Francis guy? Now, these were separate reports I was going to report on later, but I felt that this is the perfect time to insert this into the study. Update. Explosive intervention by Pope Francis to transform climate change debate. The most anticipated papal letter for decades will be published in 5 languages on Thursday. This is coming up on Thursday. It will call for an end to the tyrannical exploitation of nature by mankind that the Illuminati's totally created through all of their various and sundry means to annihilate and devastate the planet, and chemtrails and HARP and scalar weaponry and all kind of ways they can, create and abate weather patterns and hurricanes and earthquakes and all of this stuff they have total control over, and how they've created the problems with all of these things, and with Fukushima and with nuclear and all of these things. But see, we get the blame for everything. So obviously this is pushing for a battle against the non-existent global warming problem that they keep shoving down our throat. Even though we consistently keep having like some of the coldest winters on record. And if global warming was actually really happening to the level they said, why isn't Florida underwater right now? Why? I mean, they should at least be losing cities. Florida's very near sea level. I lived there for most of my life. Barely above sea level. Particularly the southern, Why aren't the Keys underwater? Bare minimum. Polar ice caps are all melting away. Well, then we got all this extra water. Well, then what? Well, they're liars. They cook the books. We talked about that last week. How they literally are just creating new data to validate the whole global warming thing. They're admitting to it. NOAA is admitting to it. Oh, we just raised all the levels for all these years because we kind of felt like doing it. And all of these Harvard studies and things of this nature, they were all cooked too. We all paid them off millions upon millions of dollars, these supposed researchers, to give us a global warming report that was favorable to our position so we could present this bogus global warming report to the world and convince everybody and browbeat everybody into the whole carbon credit scheme, and you need to sacrifice and you need to give up your land and you need to move to the stack and pack mega cities where we can control you because you're grieving Mother Gaia and you're bad. It's exactly what this whole agenda is. Agenda 21. And this fork-tongued devil from the pit of hell, I don't know how he hides that pointy tail of his and those hooves under that long dress that he wears, or that long robe that he wears, but he manages. He manages. But Pope Francis will call for an ethical economic revolution to prevent catastrophic climate change and the growing inequality in a letter to the world's 1.2 billion Catholics on Thursday. In an unprecedented encyclical on the subject of the environment, the pontiff is expected to argue that humanity's exploitation of the planet's resources has crossed the Earth's natural boundaries and that the world faces ruin. Remember, they're trying to create their order out of the chaos they're bringing. They're trying to artificially create this problem. Well, now, granted, Fukushima's real. Okay, granted, the garbage they're doing in the environment is real. Okay? I'm not saying that's not, but they've all created it. And they blame humanity for doing it, though, when they could have easily not have created it. But they're of their father, the devil, and he comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and he was alive from the beginning. So they want to follow their father, and they're doing a great job. And they'll burn in hell all the more white hotter as a result of it. I guess they don't have any fear of God on what they're doing, which I can't comprehend, but they don't. The world faces ruin without a revolution in the hearts and minds. That revolution is going to be you giving up all your personal sovereignty, all your personal liberty, all your personal freedoms, or increasingly giving it up. And being taxed into oblivion with what little you have left after the dollar's been and your respective currencies have been devalued. The much anticipated message, which will be sent to the world's 5,000 Catholic bishops, will be published online in 5 languages on Thursday and is expected to be the most radical statement yet from the outspoken pontiff. I mean, that's saying something. He said some real doozies, real satanic doozies that has come out of this forked tongue's mouth. And this is expected to be his most radical statement yet. And this is just leading up to the United Nations Climate Summit, which is on September 25th to September 27th. He's also going to address, I think, like the Congress, one of the branches of our government, which is unheard of while he's over here. Telling you, I've never, ever seen anything like what is coming up between now and the end of September. I've never seen anything like it. It's a big satanic cacophony climax of evil that we're looking at. Let's go further here. Second update regarding this particular subject. Vatican speaker on climate thinks there are 6 billion too many of us. So this is a guy that's a Vatican speaker who thinks there's 6 billion too many of us. Now they're just going to say we need to start dying. One of the speakers slated for the Vatican rollout of the long-awaited papal document on climate change once said the Earth is overpopulated by at least 6 billion people. Oh, how generous. I mean, he could have said 7. The teaching document, called an encyclical, is scheduled for release on June 18th at Vatican City. Perhaps, and again, that's this Thursday, perhaps with the exception of the 1968 encyclical on contraception, no Vatican document has been greeted with such anticipation. The political left is hoping for a document that ties belief in global warming to a religious obligation. Oh, yeah. The true Christians that are against this, and anybody that has the brains in their head to know what a farce and a lie this all is, they will be the ones deeming it. They're the problems. They're the bad seeds. They're the ones not willing to go boldly into the New World Order to become as gods as Satan tempted Eve with. Because that's what they believe. They believe they're going to take us out of the old world order of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. You know, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That's where we're going into, the New World Order, where you should be as gods. Transhuman gods, because they're going to be implanting you with microchips. They're going to be putting foreign DNA in you. You're not even going to be fully human. You can't get saved at that point at all, because you're going to literally be transhuman. You're going to be literally a cyborg. I'm not saying my listeners, I'm saying this is what they have planned for humanity. And that's why Satan wants to do it, because he knows once he gets that foreign DNA in you, and once he gets you all microchipped up, you can't get saved. That's why when you take the mark of the beast, you'll never be able to get saved, because you change. It changes you. You're not fully human anymore. You're part machine. And not only that, you get the biggest, fattest demon you have ever seen when you take the mark of the beast. You know what? I just don't quite feel the same as I did yesterday before I took the mark of the beast. I just got really apathetic. I had some conviction before about sin, but now I have no conviction. That's what's going to be the mark of the beast, I'm telling you. Some type of microchip with probably in conjunction with a tattoo on your right hand or your forehead, as the Bible says. So you'll be marked, so people will know. But there'll also be an electronic. There'll be a cyborg type component. Cyborg is part human, part machine. People are going to be on like demonic autopilot from probably the moment they get that thing. That's why it says everyone that takes it goes to hell. There's no exceptions. There's no like the Left Behind series or whatever. Certain preachers teach that, oh, you take the mark of the beast, you can, if you weren't sincere about it, you can. No. They're trying to get you into hell. I love you enough to tell you the truth, according to Galatians 4:16. And I'm telling you, don't ever take the mark of the beast. I don't care what they threaten you with. I don't care what they do. You don't take it unless you're prepared to go to hell for eternity and then be cast into the lake of fire. Don't ever do it. I know I'm not giving you the wrong advice there. Okay? As God is my witness, because the scriptures are my witness, and I'm telling you, don't do it. I really believe I see a lot of these people and the way how they're just so in the world and how they're so consumed with all of the technology and I'll wait and 5 days to get an iPhone or whatever and all this other garbage. I really believe there's going to be people that are just begging for the mark of the beast. Begging, crying out for it. It's going to be the greatest techno gadget you ever saw. You won't be able to buy or sell or trade with them. Everything will be a breeze. Yoked up with your iPhone or maybe your neural implant in your eyeball so you can have your own internal computer. That's what they're planning. You're damned if you do this. And I mean that from a biblical term. It's not worth it. Nothing's worth that. There is nothing that is worth you going to hell in the lake of fire. It's not something you should even remotely even entertain or consider in your mind for a little bit of baubles of whatever Satan can throw at you, a little bit of comfort and trinkets in this world to suffer for eternity. Lord have mercy. Anybody listening to this that would even comprehend that, I beg you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, please don't go along with this new world order. Resist this evil. If it costs you your life absent from the bodies to be present with the Lord, if you're a born again Bible believing Christian, get saved through the Lord Jesus Christ. Go to my website, contendingfortruth.com. Click on the True Salvation tab. Get in the Word of God. If you can, try to get with some like-minded Bible believers. Baptism is, yeah, I encourage that too, but it's like it's hard for me to tell people to go to a 501c3 church, and usually you have to be a member. But God can open a door there too. It's just we live in such an imperfect world now. It's hard for me to do a lot of referrals because I don't know what I might be getting somebody into, telling somebody to go to a certain church or minister. I don't know. And it's like I don't want to be responsible for telling you to do something wrong and you go and it's some big mess. So let's go further here. I'm almost done with this part too. I'm on page 8. I'm doing good. 8 out of 44. I mean, what's not to like? So let's go further. So this dude in the Vatican said that the world once said the Earth is overpopulated by at least 6 billion. Climate skeptics have already started criticizing the document. The choice of Professor John Schnellenhuber, kind of a tongue twister, founder of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, as one of the 3 presenters, may be giving the left added hope and giving skeptics severe heartburn. He has been described as one of the more aggressive scientists on the question of man-made global warming. In the talk given to the 2009 Copenhagen Climate Conference, reported in New York Times, Schnellenhuber said of global warming in a very cynical way, he said this: it is a triumph, global warming, a triumph for science, because at last we have stabilized something, namely the estimates for carrying the capacity of the planet, namely below 1 billion people. In other words, global warming is a triumph because we can definitively say that the world can't sustain any more than 1 billion people. So therefore, 6 billion of y'all gotta go. Is what he's saying. So it's a triumph because 6 billion people need to die, according to this wonderful Catholic devil boy. Schnellenhuber is also the author of what's called the 2-degree target, that says governments must not allow the temperature to rise any more than 2 degrees higher than at the start of the Industrial Revolution. And again, they're cooking the books at Noah, saying, oh, it was 2 degrees higher than we said, and there wasn't a global warming hiatus for those 15 years. It actually was a global warming. We just realized all our numbers were wrong, every one of them, and they all just so happen to be wrong in a hotter direction. Oh, how convenient. And then all of the other trumped up studies that you paid all these people millions and millions of dollars to, create some farce of a study at Harvard or wherever other college they were to prove global warming. I suppose they did that because you don't have a hidden agenda and you're being above board, right? Yeah. Just like all the vaccine studies they cook up. Yeah. Well, that's what Satan does, Unbelievable. Any higher, the theory holds, and much life on Earth would either perish or be gravely harmed. In other words, this 2-degree thing. To deal with climate issues, he has also called for the Earth Constitution that would transcend the UN Charter, along with the creation of a global council, elected by all the peoples of the Earth, and a planetary court, a transnational legal body, open to appeals from everybody, especially with respect to violations of the Earth Constitution. Whoa. Talk about global garbage government. Let's read that again. To deal with climate issues, he has also called for the Earth Constitution that would transcend the UN Charter and transcend anything like our own Constitution or Bill of Rights. You can flush all that down the toilet, essentially, is what they're saying. Along with the creation of a global council elected by all the people of the Earth. Oh, I'm sure that'll be a fair election. And a planetary court, a transnational legal body open to appeals from everybody, especially with respect to violations of the Earth Constitution. Oh, my neighbor, he's collecting rainwater. He must die. As they slam down the gavel. Good, thank you. I like it when my neighbor dies. Can I have his land? No, your land is gone too. You must die. But hold on, that wasn't part of the deal, Satan. Ha ha. You know, as he laughs in your face. This is just what that means, a transnational legal body open to appeals from everybody, especially with respect to violations of the Earth Constitution. You are going to have a legion of little demon-possessed narcs running around trying to turn everyone in if they think that they can get a little recognition, some money, a little pat on the head from Satan. What a brave new world we're heading into. What a George Orwellian 1984 brave new abomination of a world we seem to be sliding into. Like I said, this is probably one of the most, if not the most heavy-duty study I have ever done as far as just the body of everything that we're looking at, what we're facing in the next, between now and the end of September, than I have ever done. I don't know if any other study could possibly compare to this one. Okay, I just checked and I'm about out of time for this particular part. So we're going to go to part 4 here, and we're going to keep going on this particular 7 things to expect for September, but it's actually quite a, until now and the end of September, but it's actually quite a few more things. So God bless you, and we will see you in part 4.